Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the new session of Biology Standard 11th, Chapter 5 Cell Structure and Organization. In the last video lecture, we studied about eukaryotic cells. In that, we started with components of eukaryotic cells. We have completed the first component, that was cell wall. Then we started with second component, that is cell membrane or plasma membrane, or you can say biomembrane. We have completed the entire cell membrane except one model. So today we'll complete that model. The most accepted model for cell membrane is fluid mosaic model. So we'll start with fluid mosaic model. It was proposed by Singer and Nicholson. According to this model, cell membrane is made up of phospholipid bilayer and protein. So three layers are there. Two layers are of phospholipids and one is protein. Now if you will see the structure, you can see the bilayer is arranged in such a way that the heads are facing the water or the solution, that is polar heads, and non-polar tails are sandwiched in between two heads. And proteins are like icebergs in the sea of lipids. That means if suppose you feel that this model is a sea, okay, in that sea you will find proteins are present somewhere at some positions like icebergs, and these proteins can change their position. Among these proteins, some are intrinsic and some are extrinsic. Talking about intrinsic proteins, that is those proteins which occur at different depths of bilayers. They span the entire thickness of the membrane. So you can call intrinsic proteins as transmembrane proteins. And these proteins, they form channels for passage of water. Whereas if we'll see extrinsic proteins, these extrinsic proteins are also called as peripheral proteins because they are found on two surfaces of the membrane. Here, I already told you in the last lecture that lipids show calcified nature. So this calcified nature of lipids enables lateral movement of proteins. And this ability to move within the membrane is measured as fluidity. And this membrane is selectively permeable. If I say the word selectively permeable, that means it allows some of the material to pass through it, whereas it does not allow some to pass through. That's why it is selectively permeable. Then, according to this nature, it has only one function, and the function is that it helps in transport of molecules. Now if we see the transport of molecules, we'll find that this transport of molecules can be done in two different ways. One is passive transport and other one is active transport. In passive transport, you will see that during this transport, many molecules move across the membrane without spending energy. That means energy is not required in passive transport. And this passive transport can be done in two different ways. One is simple diffusion and second one is osmosis. If we say simple diffusion, that means here what happens, the solutes move along the concentration gradient. That means the solutes move from higher concentration to lower concentration. And best example is neutral solutes, the solutes which has pH equal to 7. And second one is osmosis. In osmosis, you will find movement of solvent takes place through semi-permeable membrane from lower concentration to higher concentration. And the best example is water. Then second one is your active transport. During active transport, few ions or molecules are transported against concentration gradient. That means, if I say against concentration gradient, that means from lower concentration to higher concentration. See, in passive transport, we studied two different methods, simple diffusion and osmosis, and in active we have only one, and here the transportation is against the concentration gradient. So it requires energy because it has to move against the concentration. So as it requires energy, that means what? ATP is utilized. And the best example is sodium or potassium ion pump. In this, you will find the polar molecules. They cannot pass through non-polar lipid bilayer. So, in order to pass through that, it requires carrier proteins. So, in passive transport, nothing is required, but in active transport, they require energy and they also require carrier protein in order to pass through non-polar to polar and polar to non-polar. Now, talking about difference between active transport and passive transport. In active transport, energy is required. In passive transport, energy is not required. So, as in active transport, energy is required. So, what is utilized is ATP. Okay, and in passive transport, as energy is not required, so ATP is not utilized. In active transport, you will find they need channels for transport. As I told you, they require carrier proteins. That means they require channels for transport. Whereas in passive transport, you will find they contain selectively, or you can say semi-permeable membrane for transport of molecules. Then in active transport, solutes move against the concentration gradient. Okay, whereas in passive, the solutes move along the concentration gradient. In active transport, movement of solute is from lower concentration to higher concentration. Whereas in passive transport, the movement of solute is from higher concentration to lower concentration. And best example for active transport is sodium or potassium pump, and for passive transport is neutral solutes. Now, talking about the next component, third component is cytoplasm. Now, here in a cell, you will find the cell contains a ground substance. That ground substance is called as matrix, or you can also call it as cytoplasmic matrix or cytosol. Now, here in this cytosol, you will find it contains a gel-like material. That gel-like material is not static. If I say the word not static, that means it is not stable. It always moves, and whatever movement it shows, that movement is called streaming movement, and that streaming movement is actually called as cyclosis. So whatever matrix is present in the cytoplasm, it shows a movement. That movement is called as cyclosis. Now, here in cytoplasm, you will find it contains water as a major component. So here, along with water, it also contains organic and inorganic substances or molecules, but water is a major component. Now, along with water, what it contains is organic and inorganic molecules. They are like sugar, amino acids, vitamins, enzymes, nucleotides, minerals, and waste products. Then it also contains various cell organelles, like, for example, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, mitochondria, plastids, nucleus, microbodies, and cytoskeletal elements like microtubules. Now, here, whatever cell organelles are present, these cell organelles are nothing but they are compartments that is present in the cell and that carry out specific functions. That means cell organelles has to carry out certain specific functions. Some of them coordinate with each other and complete the specific task for the cell. And these substances, these compartments which coordinate with each other and complete their task, they are considered as endomembrane system. For example, it contains nuclear membrane, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, lysosomes, and various types of vesicles and vacuoles. They are all together considered as endomembrane system. Whereas there are certain organelles, they have distinct functions that are not included in endomembrane system. Those organelles are mitochondria and chloroplast. Here you will find these mitochondria or chloroplasts, they carry out specific type of energy conversions. They do not carry out specific function, but they carry out the function of energy conversions. Therefore, they are not considered as endomembrane system. They are excluded from it. And now coming towards the functions of cytoplasm. What are the different functions of cytoplasm? First one is that it acts as a source of raw material for various metabolic activities. If I say the word metabolic activities, that means the activities which are present or done within the cell itself, they are considered as metabolic activities. Now here, it also helps in distribution and exchange of materials between various cell organelles. As I told you, these are done through endomembrane system, that is the exchange or distribution of material. So we have completed today about fluid mosaic model and cytoplasm. Let's see a quick summary. Today we studied the details of fluid mosaic model. Then we studied difference between active and passive transport. And then we studied the third component of eukaryotic cell, that is cytoplasm. I hope you have understood the topic. We'll stop here. We'll continue in the next video lecture. Till then, take good care of yourselves. Thank you.